Yo, what is going on, everyone in the XRP community? Hope you guys are having yourselves a fantastic day today. As usual, make sure to smash that like button below. Guys, I got a really good video for you guys today. Not made by me. Guys, this video will not be me. This is actually a pretty insane 10-minute long clip from Vol Hill Capital, the Jimmy Valley guy, I believe it is. And wow, the SEC is sneaky. I cannot believe this. My eyes have honestly just been opened about the reality of the SEC case. Because again, guys, I am not a legal person. I don't understand like deep legal jargon and understandings. I am more of your XRP guy on the surface level. All right, but you guys need to watch this video till the end. I promise you it will be worth it. All I got to say is just wow. The SEC is sneaky. I cannot believe this. Can't believe they're not going after Ethereum based on the claims they're making against XRP. Let's go ahead, guys. Let's give it a watch. This comes from Linkto, and I'm telling y'all, you need to watch till the end. Let's go for it.
When you start having agencies of the federal government, like the Securities and Exchange Commission, potentially the IRS, come after an asset like they have with Ripple and indirectly XRP. They knew exactly what they were doing by filing this lawsuit, even if they couldn't ultimately win it. Just basically filing the lawsuit created such a massive claim and cloud on title that it's basically frozen the market, right? It served as pretext for many exchanges like Coinbase, a bunch, I could go on to delist it, right? When they probably didn't have the legal capacity or legal authority to delist. They just point to the case and say, well, there's this ongoing dispute about whether it's a security or not. And if it's a security, we don't have a security brokerage license. We can't be, engaged in this type of stuff. But they used it as pretext to basically shut off the market to retail. And when you step back and you look at that, and also the fact pattern around how it happened. Remember, the lawsuit was filed on December 22nd, 2020. Chairman Clayton leaves the next day. The vote among the 5 commissioners whether to bring the claim was not unanimous. It was a 3-2 vote, with the deciding vote, Chairman Clayton literally running out the door the very next day. That in and of itself is a huge head-scratching type of thing. It's so head-scratching that Grunfest, who was a Stanford law professor at the time, he's also a former SEC commissioner, had written a letter to all 5 commissioners 5 days, I think, before the lawsuit was filed, basically telling them exactly what was going to happen, that they couldn't do it and how bad it would look if several of the people involved, Chairman Clayton, people in enforcement, left. Okay, that was kind of fact number one that was super weird and concerning. It just didn't make sense to an objective person looking at the case, right?
Yep.
The second thing that happened was obviously people like me people like Jeremy Hogan went and started pulling precedent on the other ICO cases. And the one that was most germane to the Ripple case was the Kick Interactive case, right? Kick settled with the SEC, basically saying that their token was a security, but they were allowed to go file what's called a Form D after the settlement and basically continue trading in the security, right? So it's basically like, okay, you got us, it's a security, but we only distributed it to accredited investors, right? So it wasn't a public offering of securities. That's what's against the law, to have a public offering of securities. It was a private placement. There's an exemption from the registration requirement for private placement. For example, if you and I right now start up a business together and we go raise capital from a group of millionaires, we don't have to go register those securities. And likewise, later on, if we have an M&A transaction and we sell our company, and us and our investors end up, having a gain on the security, on the equity that we hold in our partnership that you and I did, if that's being sold to, if it's being sold to L'Oreal or 3M or Coca-Cola, that doesn't have to be registered. Why? Because it's a private placement, right? It's a transfer to an accredited investor. It's a private business transaction. It's not a public thing. The registration regime of the securities laws are intended to provide disclosure and protections to retail investors that aren't accredited, right? The little kids, okay? So that they can go and read, these volumes and volumes of 10Ks and 10Qs. And every time you have a material transaction, you got to have an 8K, all this kind of stuff. There was talk around, and I'm talking like January, there was right around the time Deaton is basically starting to say, I'm going to intervene in this case because something is amiss, because it looks like they're saying like secondary market sales of XRP by little kids who've been holding this stuff potentially since going back to 2014, 2015, are securities transactions. And you remember the Judge Netburn even asked in the very first open conference meeting with the attorneys, the first hearing, it says, it sounds like you're saying that every transaction around the world in XRP is a securities violation of Section 5 of the Securities Act. And they kind of didn't really answer that question directly. The SEC didn't. They kind of danced around that. But it's when right around the time Deaton's doing that, Hogan and people like us were looking at the Kick Interactive case going, well, this is all going to wrap up soon, because if it's really just intended for the big kids, right, they're all accredited. If it was just distributed to the big kids by Ripple and Larson and Garlinghouse, there's really been, those were all private placements. They were exempt from the registration requirements anyway. So probably what should happen, if they're right, if the SEC is right and it is a security, is the same thing that happened in Kick Interactive. They should say, it's a security, you pay a fine and file a Form D, okay? What happened though was super weird. There was actually talk that exact resolution of the case was going to happen in January and February, within the 30 to 60 days after the case was filed, okay?
Yep.
And the acting chairman, remember Chairman Clayton is gone now. We don't have Gensler in yet. That took months and months and months for Gensler to get there and then get confirmed by the Senate and all that, because we were going through a transition in administration and everything. But acting chairman, I think her name is Lee. We'll have to confirm that, but she was one of the four that were left, one of the four commissioners that were left, went and changed the rule on contingent settlements in the SEC, and basically didn't make the resolution of the Kick Interactive case possible anymore. In other words, they took away the ability to say, okay, you can go now and file a Form D and basically cure the prior, because basically what they were telling Kick is you didn't perfect the private placement because you didn't file a Form D. When that happened, when acting chairman Lee basically changed the rules by herself and said that's not a possibility anymore, it was like, okay, this is weird. And then, then we start getting into, the Hinman emails and whether or not those are going to be disclosed, and the SEC's playing this hide the ball game. It is unconscionable that they're making the claim, the SEC is making the claims that they're making in the case, and they are not providing the supporting memos that analyze whether or not Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP are securities. Those memos exist. We know from the timeline that's going around that those memos exist, but they're not turning them over. Why not? They absolutely should. This is their whole thought. This is the deliberative process that they undertook, right? They should be turning that over. They should not be hiding behind this. Obviously, I think all of our guts are telling us correctly, I think, that there's something in there that basically says XRP is not a security, right? It would totally end the case.
Are you saying, Jimmy, there may be some corruption pudding on the table?
I'm saying at this point, I mean, I'm talking about back in 2021, we were looking at these facts. Now we're in the summer, we're midsummer 2022. And oh my God, corruption pudding, it's corruption pudding, corruption cake. It's all the dessert. It's the whole freaking dessert bar of corruption. You know, Clayton and Hinman literally go right back to work for the same law firms they were working before they came into the SEC. And then within a couple of few months after that, they're at these mega freaking crypto hedge fund. Every regulator in the SEC who seems to be leaving the SEC is going to a freaking crypto hedge fund. So, okay, does that mean that this isn't the future? Do they not have information about where all this is going? You know, so